Hello everybody, Steffi here from The Makers, and it's nice to see so many of you are waiting to join me today to make roses. I can see Faith Mother Goddess is already here, and early as well. Diane is here, Ross is here, Chandra is here. Hi Chandra, how are you doing? I hope you're having a week off after all and you haven't been called in to do whatever you do, which I don't really want to mention it because it can be pretty gruesome, I guess. Donna is here as well. Hi Diane, already said hi to you, and there is also Emma is also here, so that's really nice. Hi Emma. Janet is here, and there will be lots of you, and Chris is here, and Joe is here. Hi Joe. And there will be lots of others who won't say hi, but that's okay. You can be silent observers. So today I've decided, even though it's not an exact anniversary of any kind, but I've decided today to what's the word now? I had it in my head a minute ago and it's gone now. Dedicate, that's the word. To dedicate the rose making tutorial to my mum, who was called Rosie, like your daughter Jo, and her actual name was Rosita, and we have no Spanish relations whatsoever. But her dad, who was in the Second World War, he was actually a prisoner of war in Russia for probably the most of the duration of the war. He loved as so often there's entertainment for the soldiers to keep them all motivated and happy, and I think there was a very lovely young lady called Rosita who was singing, and so he decided to name his daughter after that lady. So that's quite nice. Obviously my mother was born way after the war, but he never forgot her, so my mother ended up with the name Rosita, and everybody called her Rosie. And not only did she have the name Rosie, but she also loved roses, absolutely loved them. And the next bit is a little bit sad, but also a bit funny, because 4 years ago she was diagnosed with cancer and died literally from diagnosis to her final breath that she took within 3 weeks. And I was lucky enough to be with her. I raced to Germany, and as everything went so fast that I wasn't even that long away from home. And she loved roses, and so we had roses in her room literally until she couldn't take it all in anymore. And it was really lovely to know that that she just loves the roses and that she had that lovely view of them. On her day of the funeral, I actually went into the neighbor's garden to pinch a really particularly lovely, massive, big red rose. It was just there, sitting there on the other side of the fence, and I had to climb over it to get to it. And that was the only flowers that I gave into the grave where my mother was buried. She was buried, she was cremated first, so it was an urn that was buried, and the only other thing I put in there with her were knitting needles. And the reason why I put knitting needles in there is because I may have mentioned this before, but I've never seen my mother without knitting needles or a crochet hook for that matter in my whole life. And in fact, I thought today would be a good time to wear a dress that she knitted for me. So I told you this is all about dedication to my late mum who died 4 years ago. And if I'm going to be very brave, I'll tell you an extremely funny story about my mother's funeral as well. And if you had met my mother, you would know that she was full of love, full of life, totally unpredictable. You never quite knew how you would find her, whether she was in an ecstatically happy place or something dramatic was going on in her life. But she did teach me one thing, and that is to smile and to laugh, and to be able to laugh at yourself. And I think that's a gift that I'm very grateful for. So if I feel brave enough, I will tell you the funny story during her funeral. I need a bit of encouragement to do this because it is absolutely hilarious. You couldn't, and this is not funny as in the way of German sense of humor, I promise you, you'll love it too, with any nationality sense of humor. Anyway, this is enough now about my mum. So who else have we got? Hi Jane, nice to see you. Hi Helen, hi Sue. Oh, Chandra saying hello to everybody, so that's lovely. And Rosie, Joe's Rosie also loves roses, so that's not just a name; it's obviously meant to be. And Helen is here for the first time, so that's lovely. And hi, Jana. I did see the video of you being dressed as a brownie or a scout, even. I haven't quite got to the reason behind it, but I think you were waving. Is this waving at the NHS on a Thursday night? I think that's what it was about, dressed as a scout. I have not made the connection between the scouts and the NHS, but I'm sure I'll work it out by the end of today. If nothing else, you will probably tell me about this. So these roses are, they're really a very simple construction. And if you know ribbon roses, they're actually, I've kind of pinched the idea from that principle. So there's, yeah, they're really lovely. You can make them relatively big. They're not going to be massive, but they can be relatively big. And I was going to change the format slightly different today. So I have got a whole load of wool here. Look at that. All lovely colors. I've picked all kinds of rose colors that I think would look really amazing for roses. And what I'm going to do is, because a lot of it is in the mixing of wool, I've got a piece of paper here, there, and I'm going to make up a rose mix, and I staple it to this piece of paper, and then I name the wools. And if you want to copy exactly the same thing, you can do this later in your own time. If you haven't got the exact wools at home, you might want to buy them from us. But if you can, I encourage you to play around and mix a little bit of wool. And I will also be making some little leaves. So there are green versions of this of the color mixing going on as well. And I will write all of that down as well. And I've got so much to tell you. It's just very exciting. I've got 3 new things I need to tell you about. So I'll pace myself and tell you one little thing now. So one little thing is that we have got, as you can maybe see here behind us, we've got a new product, and it's a little bit like share if you care, and you can share this with a friend, and with it comes a little gift card, and you can we write a little personalized message on the back of it. Sorry, I just need to show you this a bit closer up. So there's a little postcard side gift tag that we will put in every single one, but you can have a little personalized message on there. So if you have a friend who needs a little bit of boosting, then they get to make a rainbow, and it makes 2 of these little picture rainbows. Or you can make several of these little brooches. I wore one yesterday, and they do come with our magic no-sew brooch pin. So no thread and yarn, thread and needle required. Just use our magic brooch pins. If you don't know what they are, I will show you those as well when we get to the roses. But you can get all of this, and this is not all of it yet, because it's not just about needle felting, it's also just showing a little bit of care and love. And you get 2 chocolate hearts with it as well. There you go. Very good. I'll show them closer to you as well. There you are. Get 2 chocolate hearts. That's really good quality chocolate. I didn't know when I ordered it, but it is German chocolate. So it happened accidentally, but it's really good quality. And then you get a organic herbal tea bag with it as well. It might not be this variety. It could be a different one, but the overarching theme is it's organic, it's herbal, and it's all about de-stressing and keeping well and staying well and sleeping well and all of that sort of stuff. And you also get a lovely bag of lavender in there. It smells absolutely divine. So whether that is something that you just put within the wool so it keeps the moths away, or whether you put it under your pillow to sleep well, or put it in your bath, or just sit there all day and sniff at it like I do. And then you obviously get your whole rainbow color wool, red, orange, yellow, green, blue, purple, and then you get the white for the clouds. And then you also get 2 felting needles, a felting mat, and I told you about the felt sheet already. So it's a whole package, and the idea is, if you know somebody who is going stir crazy at home, or who thinks, oh, I want to try this needle felting, but I don't know where to start. This is the simplest kit ever. Anybody can do it. Or maybe you just think somebody needs a little bit of rainbow in their life. Everybody needs a rainbow in their life, but there is an opportunity. Buy it for your friend or buy it for yourself. Treat yourself. Of course you can do too. So, Emma's been to the German chocolate museum in I say it the German way, in Köln. Now that's amazing because I haven't. So I've missed out on that. Yeah, thank you, Jana. It is a lovely idea. I think we're just constantly trying to think, what can we do to help people getting into needle felting and sharing a little bit of that amazing craft that we all love so much, and that gives us so much pleasure and helps us to de-stress and helps us to be part of an amazing community. So let's share it out with other people. There's Piggy Studios YT. Your mum died in May last year, and it has been very difficult with the anniversary coming up. Oh, she also loved roses too, pink roses. Well, you can make a lovely rose in commemoration of your lovely mum. Okay. Julie is actually called Piggy Studio is actually called Julie. I didn't think that was your name, but I didn't know how else to call you. So anyway, it's really lovely to have you here with us, Julie. So let's get started. Have any of you ever made a ribbon rose? It's a really simple principle. You basically have a long strand, normally of ribbon, and then you roll it up. There's a certain way you twist it as well, and then it turns into like a rose shape. And this is exactly what we're doing here. And I think the nice thing, and I'm going to go a bit smaller now so you can see what I'm actually doing. The nice thing is that mixing the wool makes such a difference. So what I've got here at the moment, let's start with a red rose, and I thought that this would be amazing to mix these here together. So we've got our red New Zealand merino, and then we've got our red sari silk there, and then this one is the natural dyed orange. Now this is one of my favorite wools because I don't know whether it is because it's dyed with madder, and madder is a naturally occurring color because it's a plant that grows. I think it just mixes in really nicely into natural things, whether it's a landscape or flowers. And so I use this quite often, actually. My Sophie calls it something else entirely, and I won't tell you what it is. I don't want to insult anybody. So where's my piece of paper now? I'm going to write this down. This is what I'm going to do is I'm going to write down on here the colors that they are. New Zealand red, sari silk, red, and then I've got the natural dyed orange, and that's also a New Zealand. So these are all merinos, the New Zealands, and then obviously sari silk is not an animal fiber. It is actually an animal fiber. But it's not a wool fiber. So these are the three, and what I'm going to do is I'm pinching off a bit of that, and then all I'm going to do is I'm going to staple them on here. I should have done this the other way around because I also want them so you can, no, that's not even the right one. There, that's that one. And what we'll do is I'll take a photo of this later on, and then I will put it onto our Facebook page, or even onto our free rose tutorial that we've got on our website. In fact, I say I, but what I mean is Emma will. There you go, that's the sari silk. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to mix this now, so you then can see what the mix looks like. This is how we often help people who have got they've got a certain animal that they want to make, and they want to buy the wool from us, and actually we really love it to get a little bit of a challenge, and then we can start mixing the colors for them, so they can see that actually a lot of the wools, if they don't look like that straight away, they can look like that if we mix them a bit. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to mix my mix. Now when you mix a fiber such as sari silk into your wool, you have to do it very sparingly, because you don't want it's quite a harsh fiber, and it will break your needle if you make it the main contents of your mix. So I've got my red here. I'm going to mix a little bit of this orange in. What I like about the orange, it almost looks like it's the shine, like a reflection where the light comes off. And then I've got my, oh, I've got, no, that there, sari silk here. There we go. Okay. Nobody said they want to hear the story. That was absolutely killed me laughing at my mother's funeral. Anyway, when you're ready, just let me know. So I'm mixing the wool now, and to mix the wool, I'm teasing it apart by laying it on top of each other and pulling it apart. And actually, it's quite nice not to have it a very even mix. You want it to be a mix that still has sort of the shades of the other wools showing, because that's the whole point of doing it. There's a bit of blue in there from the sari silk. I'll just take that out, and that's sort of the mix now that I've on your screen. You might not see it as for real as I do, but that is the mix that I've created. And so now I'm going to make a long ribbon out of this, and I'm laying it onto my felting mat, nice and flat, like this, like a strand of wool. I didn't clean my mat yesterday after I've been felting the dragon on it, so apologies for the bits on there. And then I'm going to use my felting needle, and I'm just gonna, this is the simplest thing ever, you're just gonna have to turn this into a strip of felt, basically. That's all you're doing. Now the challenge is that when you felt something flat on your mat, you have to keep lifting it off regularly, otherwise you just fasten it onto there firmer and firmer, and then it becomes quite tricky to take it off. So peel it off gently, turn it over, and repeat. If you've got any multi-tools, this is the day of the multi-tools. I've got my 3 needle felting tool. Works of course great because I'm speeding this up 3 times as fast. I'm not even too worried about the wispy ends at the moment. I'm just going to get this felted into a piece of felt, and in the best sense of making felt, this is what you're doing here. So if you imagine your woolly jumper goes in the washing machine, comes out nice and felted, not that you want that necessarily. This is what I'm doing with the needle here. I'm creating this fluffy wool is now turning, is getting firmer and firmer, and I keep doing this. So if you've got 7 needle felting tools, just as well, keep going over there. So every multi-tool you've got definitely speeds the work up. And I've got one more that I will throw into the equation. This one's very noisy. I'll just lift this off and turn it over, so you're stabbing this from both sides. If you've got the prim needle felting tool, then that works really great as well. I'll just take these off there so they don't hop around. There we go. There we are. I'll peel this off and turn it round. And then I just keep going over it until it's a really lovely, nice, firm strip of wool. And like I said, I'm not worrying about the wispy ends because they're sort of going to disappear later anyway. If you've just got a single needle, that's fine too. You can actually turn your single needle into a multi-needle by just holding 2 at the same time. There, that suddenly makes 2. And if you want to, you can hold a 3rd one as well. So suddenly you've got 3. For this, it works quite well because the needles are close together, and because you're not having to stab into a lot of resistance there, you can use it. It's quite hard on your arms if you stab away, so you might want to take your time, and certainly always lift it off the mat. If at any point you think actually be nice to have a different color in there, a bit more color, then just mix some of the wool over the top, or even some of the sari silk. Just add a little bit more in. It's your style rose, your creation, and just mix that in. I hope that the camera does this justice because it's looking really lovely. I'm getting a really nice sense for this rose, and I'm just making the sides a little bit neater by just only because I like them neat, but not necessarily because they have to be so neat. There you go. And still stabbing just into that strip of wool until it becomes firmer and firmer. It is actually quite see-through. I don't know if you can just see the blue coming through. That's fine, don't worry about it, because we're going to roll the whole thing up. Ooh, that's a very coarse needle. I don't think I like that too much in there right now. It's a bit better. So try your different needles, work with whatever works best, and make that a nice neat strip of wool. I'll try some more of these needle felting tools. There's a 7 needle felting tool. It's definitely working my arm muscles here. I'll try it left-handed. There you go. And I'm going to leave it as that now. So I've got a strip of wool here, and I'm going to zoom in even a bit more now, because this is more detailed work now. So there's my strip that I've just needle felted, and now just move this out of the way so you can just see what I'm doing here. Now you have two options. If you have a really thin strand, you can use it singly. If you've got a thick strand like this, you can bend it over. If you bend it over, you have a very neat rose at the top. So for example, this rose here has got a very neat edge because I've bent it in half. This rose here has got less of a neat edge because I've used the edge that I've actually left pretty unfelted. Either way, you're going to start by rolling this in and just make a nice tight start of a rose here. So now you have two options. You can just roll it in and now and then stab it down, or you can just roll it up and see where you go and then stab it in at some point. Now the idea is, and this is where it can become a little bit tricky, and I hope you can see this in the picture. When you do a ribbon rose, you don't just, well, you could just roll it up, but it becomes sort of like more like, looks like a sausage roll. But what you can do is you can twist the strip of wool that you've made so that it sort of almost like tilts outward, and that way you become more of an open rose. So if you have got as far as this, then just give it a few stabs. Takes a little bit of practice. Give it a few stabs. Don't stab right into the top, just stab around the outside, because we don't want to flatten the shape of the petals there. And then keep wrapping it around. Give it another twist so you get a nice fat petal on the outside, and then at the very end just stab in these wispy ends so they're tucked away, and there you've made a rose. Super easy. And what you can do now is, because it's quite a messy little rose and we want it to be tighter and neater, you can actually stab into the top, but you have to stab into the gaps between the petals. Rather than stabbing and flattening it, just go in to the little gaps there, and that way you are making it look tidier and neater. And what works really well is, and I really do hope the camera will show this, can you see the sort of slight variegation of, so we've got slighter darker patches of the sari silk, and then we've got the lighter bits of that natural orange. And what it does, it stops the rose looking so flat. So it gives it a little bit of texture and a little bit of real look to it, as if the light's shining on, there's a bit of reflection coming off. And most flowers aren't just a single color, they have quite sort of a multicolor effect. So you can do two things now. You can either leave it like this and make lots of them and just use them as they are, or you can make leaves for them. And I've got 3 different greens here, and I will write that down as well. So I've got here my 3 greens that I thought work best for roses. I've got a green pen as well. So the lightest is the lichen green, and that's our mountain sheep. And then we've got the next green one here is our pea green New Zealand merino. So if I pin that there, then the next one could go there, or maybe there. Oh no, there, put it there. Oh, I don't know. Should I put it there? Yeah. Pea green, New Zealand merino. And then this one here, the darkest green, sorry, you can't even see them. There, that's the lichen, that's the pea green, and then this is the forest green, the New Zealand forest green. So I'm just going to go one bigger so you can see what I'm doing rather than me just talking to you. So they are my three greens. That's the lichen green, the pea green, and then the forest green. And that's forest green, New Zealand. There you go. So these colors here, I'm going to pin, just staple onto here. That's my pea green. That's my forest green down here. And then this one here is my lichen green. I'm sure there is a better way of doing this, but this is what it is right now. There you go. So they're the colors. Maybe I should just do that. There, pea green. Okay. So I take a photo of that later as well. But what I will be doing now is I'm going to make a little mix again. Now, with the leaves, you can again just use them as a single color. In fact, I have done with some of the roses. That's just the lichen green. But I actually also think it looks really nice mixed. So you could just do a mix of two or add a third color into it. Whatever takes your fancy, have a little play. It just makes the colors lift and give it more of a realistic look. So I'm mixing my three colors here now. All keeping them in the same direction, pulling them and teasing them apart, trying to keep the fibers running in the same direction so they don't bobble. And making a new mix. I'm only mixing as much as I can actually cope with my hands. If you've got carders, then you could mix more at the same time. How is everybody doing? Oh, Joe, you want to hear it. Oh, Emma, you want to know. Oh, I've got to tell you this now. Okay, I'm just going to take a minute out. So basically, I have to tell you that being with my mum in her last few days, it was probably the saddest time, but also the funniest time I have had with her. And I'm holding on to the funny parts of it because she had such a great sense of humor and she just accepted that this was it now. And so we, my sister and I, we rallied around and we said, what do you want? What do you want? As your last thing, what do you want? What do you want? And so she ordered strawberries and cream, and she wanted, for the last time, she wanted to taste this kind of food, and then the last time she wanted to listen to this kind of music, and I'm telling you, it's not pretty music. It was absolutely excruciating. Some very German, oh my goodness, I don't think you'd ever even listen to it. It's terrible music. But anyway, we endured it all. And then we had no idea what it means if somebody dies. We just didn't know. And so she was getting worse and worse, and she was lying in bed, and then one minute she sat up, and we thought, oh my goodness, we looked at each other and we thought, what's happening now? And she sneezed about 20 times, just like this, and both of us were like, oh, don't do this. We thought this was it. And then we all had a laugh about it. So anyway, I need to tell you this story first because it's of relevance at the funeral. So my mother remarried, and it's a little bit like in a fairy tale, except the other way around. Her husband was not a very nice, well, he still isn't. Maybe he's dead now. I have no idea. But he wasn't a very nice person. I didn't get on with him. My sister didn't get on with him. My mother obviously did, and so that was a different story altogether. But in any case, he really, really turned, especially on me after my mother died for some reason. I have no idea. And I tried to be as civil as I could with him, but I think he also suffered from dementia, and I think people who suffer from dementia can sometimes turn on people, so I tried to cut him all kinds of slack, but actually I didn't like him very much. So it made it extra horrible for me at my mother's funeral because he basically decided all against her wishes, and he could because he's her husband, and as children we had less of a say. But as we went to the grave, and the vicar was a very nice man, and I actually spoke a little bit at the funeral of my mother as well, and it was it was a day in June. Sorry, I'm making me so much laugh just thinking about it. And they dug a hole to put the urn in, and it was really green grass all around it. And so then we all stepped forward to put our gifts in that we had brought. Mine was the rose that I had stolen from the neighbor's garden, and the knitting needles. And then we stood there, and the vicar was talking. And then out of the blue, this nasty husband of my mother, he sneezed, and as he sneezed, his teeth flew out of his mouth onto the green grass. And we were standing in the front, and my sister and I, we were just like, oh my goodness, has this just happened? And we just couldn't help it, but we just absolutely burst into laughing. But because the whole congregation was behind us, all they could see were our shaking shoulders as we were ecstatically laughing our socks off. And the vicar discreetly sort of shuffled to one side, bent down, picked up his teeth and handed him the teeth back. And I think the whole people behind us just thought we were sobbing because we were so upset. Little did they know that we were we were so ecstatic with laughter. It was hilarious. And all I could think of was, thanks, Mum, because I'm sure she sent that sneeze down to give him the punishment and us the pleasure. And it was I just couldn't stop laughing. My sister was the same, and we had such a lovely time. And that's how I always remember my mum, that she's basically sent a nasty sneeze to this nasty husband of hers, who then spat his teeth out. And it was you couldn't have made it up. You had to be there to see it. And so the only other thing that I will say is that, because I haven't been to my mother's grave since she died, but my sister has been, and she always says, what would you like me to take to the grave? And I always say to her, some dental glue. So she takes a paste of dental glue, puts it by the side of the grave, and I just always hope that he will get the message that he's a bit of a, can't swear here, but anyway. So there you go. I've shared the story with you now, but it's hilarious, and I hope. Okay. Also, okay, you're finding this funny too. It is really, really funny. It was so funny, but anyway, you've got to sometimes see the funny side in things as well. Yes. So back to the leaves of the rose. So I've got my mix here, and now I'm going to flatten this into a shape as well. But this time I'm sort of making it long as well, but not as long as the whole other rose. And I'm just flattening it first. But what I'm doing is I'm making the leaves slightly pointy. So I'm needle felting 2 leaves all at the same time. It looks like one ginormous big leaf, but it's not. So I'm just stabbing the wool flat at the moment. And in a minute I'm going to have to lift it off the mat again, because I need it to be turned round, not fastened to. You can use your multi-tools, whatever you've got to hand, or just use the single needle. Any of it will be fine. Oh, thank you, Diane. A lovely story. Well, it's definitely one that I will always remember, and it's made a very, very sad day for me into, I don't know. I don't want to say it was a happy day, because that sounds a bit weird, but it definitely made it into a day that I suppose it was a happy day. Just thinking of what happened there, and I was convinced that it was her sending that sneeze down from wherever she was. So there you go. There's my my 2 leaves, but it looks like one, and now I'm pinching it in the middle like that, and that's how I'm stabbing it in. So I'm making. Please share your funny stories if you've got any else. I feel really bad now sharing such a macabre story, but you had to be there to witness it, to believe it. It was hilarious. Right, there we go. So this is more looking like a leaf now, or 2 leaves, I should say. So I'm peeling that off again, and I'm just going to go a little bit smaller again so you can see this really close up. There's the leaf. Giving it a few stabs. Keeping it nice and flat still. And again, it really works well with having that slightly variegated wool in there. You can use, ooh, no red. You can use your multi-tools if you want. So the more time you spend on there, and the nicer you get this to be smooth and flat, the more delicate the rose will look. And you can also, this is something else that some people do, you can iron your flat felted piece of wool, because that takes sort of the frizzy look away and just makes it nice and smooth, so it looks a little bit less fluffy and yeah, wispy. So you can do that too. I'm just keep swapping around with needles. What have I got here? I've actually got a cross star here. It's nice and grippy, that one. I like that. And more here. If you want to, you can add details on top of the leaf. That's entirely up to you. If you want to give it little veins or blemishes, that's entirely up to you. You could even, if you wanted to, trim the edges with your scissors. So if it's a nice solid felt, you should be able to make these more distinct by just cutting them around the outside there, so it looks a little bit more crisp and a little bit more clear. And then you put the rose on top like that, and now turn it over and then just stab the green wool into the where you've already pinched the green wool. Just pinch it even more and stab that into the base of the rose, and to fasten the leaves onto the rose, and then you've got a rose that sort of has got leaves sticking out on either side. And then you've made you've made your lovely rose with delicate leaves. And I will show you now how our magic no-sew brooch pins work, if you don't know yet how they work. So this is it. It's not a joke. It's not just a safety pin. In fact, it's not a safety pin at all, though you could use it as a safety pin. If you look very closely, it hasn't got a coil. It's completely smooth here around the edge, and that's the crucial part of it. So when you put it into your make, and then you just swivel it around, so you go around the corner. Can you see? I'm just going literally round the corner. That way you have your bit that is fastened onto the pin on the bit that where it can't slip off, and then this end here you just pin onto yourself or whatever you want to decorate with your rose. Just pin it on. Best thing is that you can always take it out again. You don't need to cut the thread off like with traditional brooch pins where you have to sew them on. It's perfect for that. So this is just a little extra to throw in there, and all of this rose was basically made with this colorway. So I will take a photo of this later on and put it on well, I will send it to Emma, and Emma will put it onto our website, if that is possible at all, Emma, to where we've got our free rose tutorial, which is this rose tutorial, exactly this one, that you can copy if you need to see it in writing as well in your own time. So that's one of them done, and then let's do another mix here. So I've also got some pink here. I'm just going to read some messages. I want to see how yeah, let's do this back here. I'm still here. Oh, I need to start at the top, because I have a habit of reading messages from the bottom and then they make no sense whatsoever. Oh yes, Joe, you have a similar one. We do want to hear. Emma, you've got a zipped up mouse. How do I have to take that? So Joe says her Bill also died from cancer, and at his funeral, we as close family, my husband's brother, were at the front, one song chosen was All Things Bright and Beautiful. The female vicar has the loudest voice, maybe. Are you going to end the story, or are you keeping us hanging? Jane, you love my story. Yeah, that's nice. I will think of that story every time somebody sneezes it. Just don't stand in the way of the trajectory of potential teeth coming your way. That could be really horrible. Yes, I have a shocking sense of humor too. can you iron straight onto the felt, or do you need to pop something in between? No, you should be able to, wool, as long as it's 100% wool, so don't use any synthetic fiber, you should be able to iron it straight down. Wool is actually amazing. As you know, it's a fire retardant, it's heat resistant, so it should just flatten it. But as I said, I haven't personally done it myself, so maybe somebody else has done it and they can give us some advice. Oh yeah, the loudest singing voice. This is part 2 of the story now. And sang all the words wrong. His wife started giggling and all of us were in hysterics. And the more we tried not to laugh, the more we did. She just gave us filthy looks. I think sometimes laughing and crying is actually really close to each other. So it seems it's quite easy. When you think you should be crying, you actually start laughing. But yes, definitely, we just have to keep a healthy sense of humor. Okay. What else is going on here? Straight on. Thank you, Jana. Straight iron. Put the iron straight onto the wool. What a lovely gift from your mum at her funeral. Laughter is the best medicine. Absolutely, Julie. I agree. And Ross says a steam iron works well too. So you can even puff like a steam engine while you're ironing your rose strip or your leaves. That is hilarious. Thank you, Ross. I'm glad you shared the sense of humor. Reminds me of my wedding, where the celebrant had a really slow, sonorous voice. My sister and I were in hysterics. It's a wonder I got married at all. Oh, bless. Of course. Thank you, Emma. I knew I could rely on you. Where is autocorrect when you need it? Celebrant, not what I managed to type. What did you? Oh, I read it right. That's okay. Love the videos, so helpful for us beginners. Oh, thank you, Helen. As you're the first time watcher, I don't normally tell completely hideous stories, but anyway. You can only type so much. It got split up. Oh, I see. I thought you were giving us a bit of a tension-building moment there, Joe, but I'm glad that you finished the story. So Mother, not Mother, Faith Mother Goddess says, I've ironed felt before to make my flat feather thinner. You can iron straight onto wool with a dry iron. Oh, okay, dry, but it works with the steam iron as well, so it appears. Or I may be wrong. I've never tried steaming it. Well, there you go. You can all try it at home now. I'm coming to my next mix. So I've got our New Zealand Merino bright pink. That's that one. And then I'm going to use the space dyed berries. With this one, it's great because you've already got a whole mix of colors in there. Though I must say, I'll leave the purple out because I think I stick with sort of the pinks for the roses. But what I will do is I'll just take a strip to pin onto that color thing. Then you've got the whole width of the whole range of the colors. And then there is our baby pink, and these will mix nicely together as well. So I'm going to write this down on here. Yeah. So we've got, I'm sure there's a better way of doing this. Just can't quite, maybe this way. So New Zealand bright pink, and then New Zealand baby pink, and then the this is actually the Australian merino space dyed tops. The others are bats, and that is called berries. So let's staple them into the right place. So this one is that one. And then we've got the baby pink here. And then at the very bottom, I said I would staple it this way. That is the space dyed Australian merino tops. There you go. So they're all on now. I'll put that to one side and let's get mixing. Before I start mixing, I've got, I said I had two more exciting things. Three things to say. One was the Rainbow of Hope gift kit. The second one is we've got a new mix on the go, and this one is called flower baskets. So you get, you could make lots and lots of flowers, and then even in fact, once I did make a proper flower basket, like a massive big hanging flower baskets, all from needle felted, knitted and crocheted flowers, and it looked absolutely amazing. And I'm telling you now, you need lots of brown and greens to go on the outside to fill the gaps. Otherwise, all you've got is like colors, and it doesn't look quite right. And if you attempt to do that, then I give you one tip: keep the colors of the flowers in rainbow order, of course. So basically, just keep like red flowers together, orange flowers together, have the red ones next to the orange ones, then maybe go into yellow, then maybe go into, I don't know, whatever else colors. You probably won't have green flowers there, but you can go from the red, go into the pinks and purple, and that way it looks really, really nice. And it doesn't matter if they're different flowers. If you keep to one color code, it will be amazing. So you get a full jar. It's not a jar actually. Yes, it is a jar. It's a sweetie jar. It's full to the brim. You couldn't put any more in there. 200 grams stuffed full to the top with our best fibers, and yeah, it's really nice. Anyway, there's 10 of them, and they are £20. Right. It's a limited edition, so if you're watching this at any point in the future, we probably don't do this anymore, but I'm just telling you that now. Right, so let's do a bit of mixing. I've got a bit here already, a little bit of that color and a little bit of that color. So again, I'm laying them on top of each other, and I'm making my nice mix here. And this time I'm mixing a wool top into the equation. I was going to bring my steam iron, well, it's like a travel iron, to work, but I forgot. So I genuinely wanted to try to iron some wool, but I forgot to do it. But you're all saying it works absolutely well, so you can do it at home and then tell me about it after. So I've got a good mix there. It yeah, doesn't it look lovely? It's just like sort of a really lovely variegated rose there. And I'm going to spread this into a longer piece again. So if you have bits, then make sure that they connect to each other rather than sort of putting them too close to the edge next to each other. And then just give it a few stabs. And we're going exactly what we've done before, making it into a strip. Now somebody asked something about can you fold it in half? Yes, you can fold it in half entirely. I think I missed that one. Let me just scroll up, because I've just remembered there was a who was it? Who just asked? Oh, I'm going all the way up now. No, that's not it. I don't know. I'm pretty certain somebody said, can you fold this in half? But I genuinely don't know who said that now. Try scalloping one edge, then roll it up and stab along. Ah, thank you, Chris. That's useful information. So I'm only reading it out loud because these comments will be taken out later. So I'm trying to make sure that everybody who watches later will have the benefit of all your lovely comments and tips here. Yeah, sorry, I'm just reading. Yeah, I think maybe I made that up, but yes, you can definitely fold this in half as well. Once you've needle felted it, I don't know. This is what I said earlier. You can either make one strip and have the edge neater. So if you want to make a thinner strip, and then the rose won't have quite so fat petals, or you can just keep it completely wispy at either end and then just fold it in half, the whole strip, and then roll it up and let the neat edge, the edge that is the fold, let that be at the top of the rose, and it will make it look neater. And you can make tiny roses that way as well, so they don't have to be as big as I'm doing here. They can be really tiny, just as long as you've got a strip of wool, and I will show you in a minute how they could be tinier with using a different wool altogether. There. So just making a strip of felt, quite satisfying doing this with a multi-tool, certainly speeds things up. Trying to use the prim tool again. Actually, I've got another 2 new things to say. I had 4 in total. I thought I only had 3, but I have got 4, so I've got to tell you about this as well. There you go. Oh, I'm loving this colorway. It's just really lush for. If you like pink roses, this is a lovely color combination. Look at that. That nice. Really nice. There we go. And so this one I'm folding in half again. I'm just going to come a bit closer up so you can see better. There we go. So I've got my strip of wool here, folding it in half, and then I'm rolling it in from one end, and start off tight, and then just give that a few stabs to secure it. There. And then start rolling it initially, just plain, and then when you get sort of towards the larger part, you twist your wool. Can you see? So this is straight. Let me just go even smaller. You can see it really clearly. So this is my my folded piece of wool. There, that's the fold. That's the whole piece. And then instead of just going round and round, you actually almost twist it so that you're going. It's a bit like I don't really know what to call it, like a roller coaster type way, trying to keep the neat edge at the top. And of course you can also just temporarily put it down, give it a few stabs. That sort of relieves you having to hold it so tight. So you've got your rose here, and then just keep twisting it, so as if you're turning the rose inside out, always trying to keep the neat edge at the top. And when you get to the very end, just use your felting needle and get rid of the wispy ends by stabbing it into the rose. Keep it away from the top. So this is the bottom here that I'm stabbing right now. And then you've got your lovely rose there, and then you can neaten it up by stabbing into the gaps between the petals that you've rolled. You can even try and open it up a bit if you want to, if you wanted to make it a little bit more open. Give it a few stabs all around, secure it a bit more around the base. And what I'm going to show you now is how to add a stem onto it. So it could be a little rose, that, or you can make lots of them and put them in a flower vase, or bunch them together as a little brooch. And the way to do that is, we have absolutely lots and lots of wire. In fact, we're probably one of the most equipped shops with wire for needle felting. And I'll just show you a very small selection. But there you go. There's the little rose. Looks really lovely with this variegated pink. And if you have, you can use a pipe cleaner. There's a pipe cleaner. You can use some of our, we've got this really thin wire. It comes in 3 different gauges. This is the thickest at 22 wire gauge. And then we've got aluminium wire, which is really nice and soft and pliable. That would be perfect for flower stems. We've also got, so we've got the soft aluminium wire. This one is, where's the camera? There. It's 1 millimeter. We've also got it, I think it goes up to 2 millimeters in different thicknesses. We've also got cotton covered copper wire. It's a bit of a mouthful. And we've got cotton covered steel wire. So I wouldn't use the steel wire, it's way too stiff for this, but certainly the aluminium or the copper wire will be absolutely fine. So the reason why I'm showing you these wires is because if you want to wrap it with wool and you've got a wire that's really slippery, not so much this one because that's paper covered, but this, like for example this one, and I will just give you a demonstration. Just need to find my pliers. Okay, I'm cutting my wire. I'm doing it away from the camera because it's a crime to do this. There we go. Cut some wire. I used my wire cutters. Not really, but here you go. And yesterday I was talking about using our beeswax balm. Oh my goodness. So I scrape a little bit off. And now you can either put it straight onto the wire, because if you put it on the wire, that just makes the wire sticky. There. And oh, I haven't got my mix ready, but I'm just going to use the darker green for this, and we can you've seen me mixing greens already, and then you can wrap your wool around, and it doesn't slip around, and you can make a nice even cover here. Keep your wool flat, even turn it the other way around, and let the wire catch the wool. Once you've made a start, you should be able to just let it doesn't sort of slip after that, but you can put more of the beeswax balm on there, and it will stop the wool from unwinding, because as you're wrapping it, the wool itself will get some of that beeswax balm into it, so that will make a really nice thin stem there. And then you can just stick that into the rose. If you've got if you haven't felted it too much, you should be able to just poke it in or make a little hole with an awl that I can't find now either. Oh my goodness, I'm just so not organized. It's only because I can't get up and get it. So I'm just going to use my felting needle to make a hole and put the wire in there. It's not happening. Come on, little wire, go in there. Try again. All the way. Right, let's see if that's done it. Yeah, there we go. Going in now. And then you can, what you can do is you can bend the wire over. You're not watching this. I'm not using scissors. So bend the wire over and let it go sink into the sort of a little bit into the wool, so that the wire stem is now secure, and might have to jiggle that a little bit. So it's just that you don't have the wire popping out straight away again. If you're doing this with pipe cleaners, it will be sufficient probably just to glue it in. There we go. So my wire is now hidden. It's inside the rose, and if you want to, you can attach leaves to it now as well, which I can also show you how to do that. So if you stick just for the minute with this, make your leaf shape. This time you're just making one leaf, so you're folding in the wispy ends to make one shape, and I'm just shaping it as I'm going along, and I'm already not liking this plain green color, but I can add a little bit more over it. It doesn't have to be mixed from the beginning, so I will show you also, if you've just started with a plain green, you can make it more interesting. So I'm making a leaf for this rose now, but I'm leaving the wispy ends at one end, and if you want to add more wool into it, then go do it in the direction of how the leaf veins would normally be, so from one end of the leaf to the other. You could even add a little bit of yellow in there. Yeah, just anything to sort of offset the color a bit. There we go. And again, this would probably work really well if you ironed that as well. Make that a nice smooth, flat piece. There. Now there's a lot of wispy ends on there. Then put the leaf against the rose in the position that you want it to be. So usually it's like, and I wrap the wool around the stem and then just very gently felt the wool back into the leaf once it's wrapped itself around the stem. So you're putting it around the stem. That's all you need to do to fasten it on, and just make sure that it has got the wrap has gone around the flower stem, and that way you can fasten on a leaf quite easily. And then with a finer needle, definitely work a bit more on this to get rid of these wispy ends. As long as it's felted, you can also use your scissors to cut off sort of the last tiny bit of fluff. As long as you felted it, it should be fine. And then you can make another leaf a little bit further down. If you wish, you can bend this into place, and there you've made a lovely rose. And yes, as I said, if you haven't ironed it, you can trim the bits that are annoying you, that might be sticking out. You can trim them off, and the same goes if you've got even finer scissors, you can almost sort of give it a little haircut all around, and then you don't have any wispy ends on your rose, if that is what is annoying you. I really like it because it looks nice and sort of almost like dreamy and a bit fairy-like when it's wispy, but some people prefer it not like that at all. So that's rose number 2. How are we doing here? What are you doing there? Sorry, I'm just trying to catch up with all the messages. Oh, Edie is saying hello. That's Jana's daughter. I think they wanted to know if they could cut in half. Could what cut in half? I'm not so entirely sure what that was about. But anyway, I suppose you could go the whole hog and work petal by petal and touch them one by one with a cone shape in the middle. Yeah, you certainly could. There are lots of ways of how to make roses. This is just one way. We've also done roses in the past where you needle felt onto water soluble paper. You needle felt lots of heart shapes and then put them together. You can use cookie cutters to make shapes of petals and of hearts and felt them together. This is just one way of doing a particular style of rose, and I'm doing it also in anticipation because there is going to be a rose fairy in the fairy subscription box, and it would look lovely for her to have lots of little roses like this. So this is just something that would work really well as a little rose tutorial for a rose fairy, especially if you keep them really tiny and delicate, like some of the smaller roses I've done here, and even smaller. And so the final thing that I thought I show you is we've got this fairy mix, and it's got again, it's a little bit like the dragon mix. You're never quite sure what you get, but it's a really super soft and fine wool. And for this, I would definitely only make small roses because it's quite hard. It's almost too fine to felt it into a big, well, you can, but it's going to take ages. So what I thought is, as a final thing, I just show you, if you wanted to make lots of small roses, you could just felt this almost into not even as wide a ribbon, but just felt it down. And with this wool, you don't even have to mix it because it comes already mixed. You can also use this to mix into plain colors. So I will show you about this as well. And the other thing we've also got is, which I haven't used now, is you can use our sunset space dyed, especially if you want to use the yellow in there. I think that looks really nice. And there are some roses that have got that sort of almost orange red as well. So I'm just felting this down. This to me looks more like a little wild rose or fairy rose. So I'm just felting this into a strip, peel it off, stab it from the other side, try all kinds of multi-tools, just because it's fun to do it. And So I'm making a much, let's try this multi-tool, a much thinner strip, much more narrow than the others. Yeah. Before I finish this, I will just say, so the other thing that we've got in store is, I don't know, some of you will have known the teddy bears that we did last year for the teddy bears picnic, our maker's box. We've got a few days left for the fox this month, and then next month is the fawn that you can make from our maker's box. But that one year we made little teddy bears, and we're bringing those back as a bear hug kit. And the reason why we're doing this is because it's kind of a weird time and we all want a hug. Maybe we're not getting any at the moment. We're certainly not getting any bear hugs. And the kit is so that you can send one half to your friend and the other half you can make your own teddy bear. And then you can have a virtual teddy bear hug, like a really big hug that we all need at the moment. So this is coming out very, very soon. We're talking days rather than weeks. And you can make, these are posable, so they can bend their legs and arms. They can, yeah, so you can get them right into the right position to give a really nice big bear hug. And there you go. How about this? Isn't that lovely? So this one is coming out. The idea is that you can have half of it sent to your friend and half of it stays with you. So it will be a two-part kit basically, with one makes one teddy bear, one makes the other teddy bear, and obviously the tools and the materials will be identical for both parts. So there you go. That's the third thing that I wanted to talk about. And the fourth thing, I've been mentioning it for a while now, but we have tried really, really hard for weeks and months and weeks and months to be able to get rid of our foam mats in our kits because we are fed up with them. We don't want to use foam anymore. It falls apart after stabbing for a while. It's not good for the environment, and we've given ourselves a promise this year, way before the coronavirus hit, that we want to make sure that we can go plastic free. And for that, we now have found a solution finally. And these are going to be in our needle felting kits really, really soon. We will make a big fuss about it. There will be some kits where you'll find them doubled up in there, and most of the kits you'll only find one. They're actually really solid, but they take the needle really well. There you go. And we can't wait. We've just approved the samples, and this has specially been made just for the makers. So we're going to give it the go ahead, and we're going to get hundreds and hundreds and thousands of them, and then we're going to put these in kits instead of the foam mats, and hopefully you will appreciate. You can use them afterwards as well, just like the others. It's not as posh as our earth mats, but they're not meant to be replacing them. They're just meant to save the planet by not using the foam mats anymore. Anyway, there's my rose, my thin petal part. This time I'm just going to go one more time close up, and with this one you have to be a little bit more delicate, so start rolling that one in as well. I'm not folding it in half, as you will have noticed, because it's a really fine wool. It takes a little bit longer to roll it up as well, so give it a few stabs to establish it. Mind your fingers. And then you do exactly what you did before by rolling it into a flower shape, a rose shape, by twisting every so often, the top over, so that you get the edge of the top of the rose. This is making really delicate little roses, and you can do much more with it once it's actually rolled up. Then you can felt it in first, the last bit of your rose. So always make sure that the top is the neat bit, and then get rid of the fibers so it doesn't unfold. felt the base down a little bit. And then the main part is when you get to work at the top of the rose, where you try and get that detail back of the individual petals. It might take a little bit of concentration, and just using a fine needle. I'm using our extra fine, the pink one, 42 twisted felting needle. They're really brilliant for this sort of stuff. You can get really fine detail going, and you can make lots and lots of these tiny little roses. And then look, there you go. Isn't that sweet? Just a tiny little rose in comparison to the big rose that we've just made. So this little rose would be perfect for a little fairy to hold in her hand. So hold that in your mind. You can also make a little strand. Instead of making leaves, just make a strand of a felt piece that you felt yourself, and then you can just add roses onto that and make a little chain of roses. And that would look so nice if you put that as decoration on something. I just absolutely love this. So there you go. That's the roses all done, and I will make sure that those photos, that wasn't the one I made. Where's the one I made? Ah, here it is. There we go. Those were the roses that you saw happening today. Tiny, big ones, all of them. And that's pretty much me for today. Yes, we did one of those roses at the retreat. You're absolutely right, Chandra. We did 3 or 4 hearts, and then the shapes are rolled together. And I did think of showing you that today as well. And then I thought, actually, that's probably the more common rose that people know already about. These are, I just love these. They're just like, look, different, but very oh yes, of course. This is the other thing, is a lot of our ideas of course come from other crafts, and Chris is just pointing out that sugar flowers can be done that way, and like I said, ribbon flowers as well. Oh, Julie is getting my is this, which book is that? The doll book. Is that being dispatched today? Oh, nice. Oh, actually, I know, you should have had that with is that you, Julie? You should have had that with the with a doll pack. Yeah, that was an oversight on our part. Do apologize for that. I suppose you could go the whole hog and work petal by petal. Oh yes, I've read that already. What else? Chris, if you have the fondant cutters, they make great templates for felt flowers. Oh, that's a good tip. Thank you, Joe. What else have we got here? Oh, there's so many more comments here. 2 roses made and stabbed straight. Oh no, stabbed straight through my finger. What are you like, Diane? Think we may need another story. Oh God. Okay. Is this to cheer you up? Oh. Rose has its thorn. Thanks, Chandra. That's very helpful. I've stabbed myself so many times while needle felting. It's unbelievable. Yes, Chris, I'm the same. I'm reliably informed that hair straighteners work for flat felt too. Oh, I haven't tried that. Well, there's not much hair to straighten, and all my girls, they have got a shock of hair, and I would be so upset if they straightened it. We haven't got hair straighteners, basically, so that's a no-go for me. Something I found to help shaping leaves and other flat things. Where have you gone now? And other flat things. Oh, ow, I'm poking myself with a tool here. Sorry, I've scrolled to, is make it flat and then hold the felt between 2 bottle tops, then stab the edges. The bottle tops protect your finger. Ah, this is to protect your fingers. That's a good idea. Just don't stab the bottle tops, I suppose. Oh yeah, the earth smudge will get a good old bashing with this, but as I said before, it cleans up really nicely. We have got some more of our rubber brushes on the way. In the meantime, there's a rubber brush over there, but I can't reach it. I have to get up to get it. So you can also just peel it off, but a squeegee works really well if you haven't got anything else to hand. a wet cloth, rubber gloves. Everybody's wearing gloves at the moment, just use them. And what else is there? Yeah, definitely the rubber brush. You already have got one. And I want to read all these messages before I go. My best friend has just had a mastectomy, and I've longed to give her a hug. The teddy bear is a wonderful idea. I will definitely order. Oh, that's so nice, Julie. Yeah, just keep watching out. We'll make a big hoo-ha about it, so you're not going to miss out on it. Lots of people. So the teddy bears will not be in the June box. The June box is going to be a large painting with wool butterfly, and I'm telling you, it's absolutely stunning. The reason why we haven't shown you a picture of it is because we just physically haven't had the time to do it. I can't begin to describe what our daily routine is like. We just never quite know which way we're turning, and everything that we normally do has been completely turned upside down due to staff absences for all kinds of reasons. We've had 2 members of staff who had bereavements in the family. Their dads have died due to the coronavirus. We've had people who have gone off to self-isolate and all kinds of things. So we're trying to do everything we can to keep people safe here, and we're taking no chances. So if anybody has the slightest sniffle, we tell them to stay at home. And so all of this has been going on for us as well. And so we haven't had a chance to show you the actual photo of the finished butterfly. But if you are getting our subscription box, there is a teeny tiny photo of the butterfly in there. And the difference between what you maybe imagine is that there is actually a background picture with it. So the butterfly isn't just on itself on a white background. It is a big butterfly with a background picture. So you can, you needle felt. You paint with wool basically. Right, so Jana, what are you making for Dave's birthday? Is that the teddy bear or the rose? Or I'm guessing it's the teddy bear. So thank you. I think I'm getting to the end of all the messages again. Thank you very much for everything that you do for us, for supporting us through these times. We're working really hard. I just one day we'll just look back and we think, goodness me, how did we manage to get through this? This is just unbelievable. And all the while we're so self-contained at the moment with the people who we are working with. Like I say, we're only half staffed at the moment. And then you feel that this huge responsibility that when it's just my family and at home and me, the only risk I ever take is by just going out to buy food. And all the time you're not just thinking of your family, you also have to think of your work colleagues, because they trust you that you are adhering to the social distancing rules and not just meeting up with all kinds of friends. So we're actually a very tight knit little community at the moment, because we want to make sure that everybody stays safe and we're sticking to the rules. So if anything takes a little longer, it's not just from our part, it's also the postal system is a lot slower, and also some people having to step into doing roles that they normally don't do. So there's a massive steep learning curve as well. But we do really appreciate that you're there with us and that you're supporting us, and I can't thank each and every one of you enough. So thank you for watching. Thank you for being by our side, and I see you back next week. I can't even remember what I'm doing next week, but I'm sure we will. We've already advertised it and we'll let you know. But it's going to be more live streams next week, and I'm really, really looking forward to it. So take care, have a lovely weekend, stay safe, stay home, and most of all, stay positive. Allow yourself to have that really shitty day. It's okay to do that. Just let it all out, and then look for that rainbow amongst the clouds, and it's all gonna get better again. Trust me, it's all gonna be fine in the end. So take care, lots of love, and I'll see you next week. Bye bye everybody.